Dark Souls is a very popular series, and even if you've never played a Souls game, you've probably at least heard the term Souls-like. It's used to describe a game that is similar in style or gameplay to the Soulsborne series. However, the term is used very frequently and very loosely, so basically any action game with a dodge or boss fights is considered Souls-like.
No, I'm not sure about that one. I don't know if that checks out.
You know, it makes sense though. The Souls series is beloved by millions and kind of the poster child for the genre, so it's only natural that other games will be influenced by it. And as loosely as that term is used, there's still plenty of games made each year that give their own take on a Souls-like concept. Some are pretty damn solid, and others fucking suck. But as a big fan of Souls games, I'm always interested whenever a new one comes out.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now.
Well, a new one came out. Thymesia is a grueling action RPG with fast-paced combat and an intricate plague weapon system, according to Google. It's also a word, somewhat. Hyperthymesia is a superior autobiographical memory allowing people to remember an abnormally large number of their life experiences in vivid detail. That's a pretty fitting title, considering the game's story is all about searching for answers in your previous memories. Your memories, however, not as good, and you'll probably forget most of the information in the story. Basically, there's a plague that is ravaging the Hermes Kingdom. People dying, mutating into monsters, yeah, some real awful shit. Our plague doctor protagonist, Corvus, has studied alchemy and has the answers to the plague's cure. That's awesome. But he forgot them. Now we must venture back into his memories, uncovering events from his past and deciphering what the truth is. Just like a Souls game, we're dropped in a very strange situation with pretty much no explanation and have to figure out most things ourselves. The story itself is a pretty neat concept, but quickly shows its flaws. What makes a Soulsborne game's story interesting, despite being incredibly confusing, are the NPCs we meet and gain information from during our playthrough. Thymesia has a total of 2 NPCs, and the dialogue between them is fairly limited. Instead, a majority of the story is told through memories and letters we find throughout each level.
Well, I can't read!
Each area has a main quest and then a few side quests where you can collect this information. I will say, they should not be considered side quests because you pretty much need to play every single one to piece together the story. But even after finding all the information, the problems continue, because the information we find is so fucking vague that by the end of the game, when we're forced to make a decision, I had zero idea what the correct choice could be. That doesn't matter though, because even when you make the decision, if it's wrong, you can just be like, nah, JK, and just try again. So despite there being a good amount of story to uncover, it's nowhere near the main selling point. Now we can look to the actual gameplay. Immediately you can tell that this is indeed a Souls-like, albeit maybe a bit too much. We of course got our Souls-like starter pack, a bonfire system, a Firekeeper inspired character that we can level with, a soul-esque currency that can be retrieved after dying, and levels with multiple paths and shortcuts that lead up to a boss. If we want to go a bit more in-depth, the world design and atmosphere is pretty much Bloodborne. I mentioned it already, and it probably sounds familiar, but we're in a plague-stricken kingdom where everything and everyone has turned into bloodthirsty psychopaths. The levels have a similar dark aesthetic accompanied by medieval Gothic architecture, just way less detailed. Corvus looks like a crow hunter, and our Firekeeper Isamid is just a child version of the doll from Bloodborne. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but the similarities will smack you in the face throughout the game.
They're the same picture.
Even with the Bloodborne blueprint applied, Thymesia struggles heavily with variety, both in level and enemy design. We have 3 main areas to play through, with the layout and design remaining almost the same throughout. The environment rarely changes, so the start of the level could look just like the end. Despite its linear progression, you'll often wonder if you've already explored an area because it looks exactly the same as the place you just came from. It also doesn't help that the side quests will put you in virtually the same area, just with a different start and end point. The Royal Garden definitely had the most variety, starting out in these corrupted greenhouses and eventually venturing into this blood-soaked library. There's like 1 or 2 unique enemy types per area, with the bulk of them just being corrupted knights. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention, the stronger enemies have roots growing out of them, while these ones have crystals, and these ones have grass. Are the movesets the same? Yeah, but they look different. The disbursement of these enemies is also kind of strange. They'll either be incrementally placed throughout the level, or you'll have a big break of no enemies, only to be ambushed by like 5 or 6 at one time. There's items in the game, or should I say item, because it's only one, and it's memories that can be consumed for leveling. Bosses? Yeah, no, they're actually pretty solid. Each one has their own unique moveset and arena that made for some more memorable fights. So far, the game sounds pretty awesome, right?
No.
Yeah, I know. If this was all the information I had, there's no shot I'd even consider playing Thymesia. However, there is one thing that Thymesia does best, and it's probably the most important thing to get right in a game like this: combat. Not only is the combat system incredibly polished, it's also fun as fuck. The overall playstyle feels like a mix of Bloodborne and Sekiro. The game incentivizes dodging and parrying more than blocking, and rewards an aggressive playstyle of consistent melee attacks mixed in with your quote-unquote prosthetic arm-esque abilities. A leveling system is in place to increase stats such as vitality, strength, and plague, but also includes a similar skill tree to that of Sekiro. These are the important things we need to look at: health and energy, feathers, plague weapons, and Corvus himself. Corvus is equipped with a saber and parry dagger for melee combat and can dash dodge to avoid attacks. He utilizes feathers to interrupt critical attacks or to close distance on an enemy. In combat, you're able to attack or dodge as much as you want because there's no stamina bar. Instead, it's been replaced with an energy bar that is expended whenever we use a plague weapon ability. Plague weapons are the most in-depth part of the combat system. They're unlocked by collecting shards dropped by enemies using that particular weapon. Each one boasts a different ability or effect to aid in combat and can be leveled up to gain additional stats or movesets. There are 21 different ones to unlock, but we can only equip 2 at a time, so you need to find the ones that fit your playstyle. Some of my personal favorites were the Whip, Twin Swords, Bloodblade, and Katar. You'll also notice in the very bottom right corner we have what appears to be a blank ability with claw marks through it. This is where I'll introduce the most important part of combat in Thymesia: Corvus's Plague Claws. Plague Claws serve a variety of purposes, but their main uses are damage and stealing plague weapons. That's right, when fighting an enemy, if you charge your claw attack, you can steal that enemy's plague weapon. This will give you a one-time use that costs 0 energy to cast, and you can continue to steal plague weapons so long as that enemy is still alive. Speaking of alive, how do you make enemies not alive? I mean, the characters have health, so you just want to get it to 0, right? Just as how Sekiro takes a non-traditional approach to health with the posture system, Thymesia has their own health system that dictates how you play each fight. You'll notice each enemy has a white health bar, but when you attack, that bar doesn't go down. Instead, that white bar is replaced with a green one. When you see this, it's known as wound. The only way to actually do damage then is to remove that green health bar. Weaker enemies you can get by with just spamming attacks over and over, but this isn't a viable option. Rather, you'll need to strike an enemy with your claws to actually remove their health, and you gotta do it quickly. Since everything is affected by the plague, failing to keep up that offensive pressure will lead the enemy to regenerating the white, I guess we'll call it shield bar.
You gotta be quicker than that.
So while in combat, you're constantly trying to do as much damage to keep your enemy from regenerating and find an opening to use your claws to fully confirm that damage. Confirming that claw hit not only does damage, but will also restore a portion of your energy bar. Since you need to be constantly attacking, you'll be expending a lot of energy from plague weapons. Not having the energy to use plague weapon abilities makes fights much harder, so although you're just fucking button mashing like crazy, you'll still need to be strategic in what abilities you use at what time. Better than me explaining poorly, here's a clip that uses most of the combat resources. And that's pretty much Thymesia. It's a short, 10-ish hour experience that features a great combat system that I think a lot of people would enjoy. Like I said earlier, the story does not matter at all because you probably won't remember the information. In a way, this game reminds me a lot of Nioh. Both are games that have wonderfully polished and in-depth combat systems, but struggle in level design and enemy diversity. Main difference being Nioh's story is much better, not necessarily because of its contents, but the characters it's told through. With all that said, I'd still recommend Thymesia, especially if you're a fan of Souls-like games like Bloodborne and Sekiro, or just the hack and slash genre. If you've played Thymesia, what did you think? Make sure to let me know in the comments, and if you haven't, let me know what your favorite Souls-like game is. Mine would have to be either Nioh or Remnant from the Ashes. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to support me further, the link to my Patreon is in the description. There's a bunch of different incentives like exclusive content, Discord rewards, picking stream games, early access, or even getting shoutouts at the end of my videos like Little PK, Nova, That Rat Murrow, Peppy Jewel, Nicholas Gutierrez, Tech Rob, Shaky Pants, and Chupa. That's all this time. Hope to see you here again.